Sup guys, and welcome to the economy changes for the 4th of July 2017. Graciously provided by, in this case, War Thunder's main development team, Gaijin. So, main part of the economy changes are minor Silver Lion tweaks. So if you want to look up a specific vehicle, I will leave the PDF link for the whole chart in the description down below, because otherwise I'd be here about 3 hours listing minor Silver Lion changes which won't really affect your overall gameplay experience for more or less all the vehicles. As 200 Silver Lions isn't really going to make much of a difference between you getting a kill and dying and not getting a kill and dying. It's just minor tweaks. But let's get into the meat of this. First off, we'll have the changes to vehicles in their stats. So we've had a change to the Mk.XVII. It's had an increase of its rate of fire from 6.6 per minute to 8 rounds per minute. So it's had a 1.4 rounds a minute increase, which is a buff to the Mk.XVII. So if you enjoy that tank, you've now got a slightly better rate of fire. The next change is the M4748A, which, if you who do not know, that is the German Sherman. It has had 2 new shells added to its loadout, the T45 APCR shell and the M89 smoke shell. This is just to put it in line with the existing M4 Sherman in the American tree, so if they move the BR of the M4 Sherman, they can move the BR on the German Sherman without having to worry about people complaining about it being slightly worse, like in the case of the P47 in the German tree. Next, this is probably the biggest change. It's been to the fv4202. It has had the APDS round added. It has been moved from the medium tank line to the heavy tank line after the Churchill Mk.XVII. So, the APDS shell it has been given is the Shot Mk.9 for the 20-pounder. It is 4 kilograms in mass. It has 1,430 meters a second. And then you've got the angle of 100% ricochet is 10 degrees, 50% is 12, and 0% chance is 15 degrees. Armor penetration is 262 millimeters at 90 degrees at 500 meters, 255 millimeters at 60 degrees at 500 meters, and 106 millimeters at 30 degrees at 500 meters. So basically, they've given the 20-pounder its APDS shell. And I honestly think this is going to result in the fv4202 being a 6.7. As the 20-pounder APDS is really fucking good. And you're on a more armoured chassis than the Centurion Mark III. So all around, there is no reason to drive your Centurion Mark III now if you have the fv4202 with the APDS unlocked. You have to grind it out. If you haven't ground it out already, it's 4,200 RP. That shouldn't take you that long. That's, what, 1 or 2 games with about 3 kills if you're running Preem. So, if you haven't got the fv4202, right now is now the time to get it. This thing is going to be a clobber. So, go out and get the fv4202 right now if you haven't got it. It's after the Churchill Mk.XVII. Go for it. It's worth it. Moving on to the BR changes that have occurred. Firstly, we've had a change to the P40E1 and the P40E1 in the Russian tree. They have seen a BR change of 2.0 to 2.3 in arcade and 2.3 to 2.7 in RB for both respectively. This is a good change because currently the P40E is clubbing hard at low tiers. A friend of mine called Matt was like, Nathan, you got to grind out the skins on the P40 now they buffed the 50 cals. I was like, sure, why not? And shit you not, within 2 hours, I'd gone from like 4 or 5 kills in the P40 to all skins unlocked. So the P40 needed this BR change. It was clubbing hard. Next, we have the MC202 in arcade only. Its BR has been changed from 2.0 to 2.3. This is again another good change. The MC202 really shouldn't be fighting biplanes. It's just too fast. So a good MC202 pilot can just buzz the biplanes for days. In arcade, RB, doesn't matter, and you can't really do anything to counter that. A major change has occurred to the Hurricane Mark 1L, which has had its BR increased in arcade from 2.0 to 2.7. This change, I'm not sure if it's... I think it might be a bit overreaction. The Hurricane Mark 1L should really not be fighting biplanes. The Hurricane is a really, really good piece of kit. And if you haven't got armor, it just rapes. But I think 2.7 is a bit of an overreaction here. I think a 2.3 would have been justified. The reason I say this is just the fact that you have the lags with a 20mm cannon at 2.3 in arcade, and they're about equal in performance. They have a bit more stopping power, but they have less turning ability. Next, we have a change to the Mk.I 45 Hay. Its BR has been reduced from 2.7 in arcade to 2.3. and from 3.3 in RB to 3.0. I think this is the Strange Musique Mk.I, and if so, this is a good change, because that thing is basically useless. Overall, the Mk.I are pretty solid. Well, the first one's pretty solid, and they're worth flying, but they're not exceptional. They're just kind of meh. So I think this is a good change. Moving on to the C202EC, it has had its BR increased by 0.3 in both arcade and realistic. So in arcade it's gone to 3.0, and in realistic 3.3. The only reason this has happened is it's just a bit too good for 2.7 and 3.0. You've got 220s on a relatively manoeuvrable and quite fast frame. So I think this isn't going to affect the C202's performance greatly. It's going to be more or less the same as it was. But it's not going to be on a better footing than it was previously. Moving on to the P38J15, its BR in arcade has been reduced 0.3 to 4.0. This is a pretty good change because the P38 is just... It's not very good in arcade. It lacks the ability to turn. It's a pretty large target, and it only has 4 50s and a 20. So unless you're head-to-head kinging, you're going to be having a bit of difficulty. So I think that's a good change. The next change has been to the Mosquito Fighter Bomber Mark 16. It's had its BR reduced from 5.0 to 4.7 in arcade. Again, for the same reason as the P38. It's a big frame and it's not that manoeuvrable. Fine, it has firepower, but that don't matter if you're getting shot. Next, we're going on to the Dorna 335, or the Fifles, both the ones in the tree. In arcade, they have both been reduced by 0.3 from 5.3 to 5.0 for the AO variant and 5.7 to 5.3 in the A1 variant. This is again for the same reason as the Mozzies and the P38. They have good forward firepower, but they maneuver like a fucking brick in a, what's it called, a laundromat. Just absolutely atrocious. Next, we have the Blackwolf 190A5U2, which has had its BR reduced from 6.0 to 5.7 and 4.7 to 4.3. Now, if memory serves me correctly, I'll just go a quick Google search here. This is the one where you can stick the shit ton of 20s on, isn't it? Yeah. This is the one where you can stick the shit ton of ordnance on this thing. And I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, because you can put an additional 4 MG151s on this beast. When I was grinding this thing out, I didn't have a problem. It's fucking monstrous. You've got 6 20s and 2 7.7s facing forward. 7.7s don't mean shit, but 6 20s. Anyone you get a second burst on, you rend them a new arsehole. So, I'd say this change was unnecessary. This looks like retards turn fighting at low altitude. Unless they've changed something and I'm wrong. When I ground that thing out, I got a solid 2-to-1 KD just killing like P47s and shit that were like licking the dirt. So I think that's a bit too soon, both for arcade and realistic, because 620s is nothing to be scoffed at and you're still pretty manoeuvrable with speed. Next we have the Ki-84 Hey, which has had its BR increase from 6.3 to 6.7 in arcade. I can't comment on that because I haven't actually ground out the upgrades on the Ki-84 outside of the first one, and that was in RB. So, if you know how that's going to affect it, please comment down below. Next we have a change to the Dorna 17Z7 in realistic. Its BR has been reduced from 1.7 to 1.3. Now, I think that is the Night Fighter one. So, yeah. It is the Night Fighter. Now, I think this is a iffy change. I'm not sure how this is going to affect the game. Because it has a 20 and 3 7.7s, but it's not very manoeuvrable. As a bomber hunter, it's relatively solid at that BR, but against fighters, it's kind of useless. So we'll see how that one pans out, but I haven't got really a complaint there, because it's a fucking DO-17, which doesn't maneuver that well with 120, so yeah, we'll see how that pans out. Next, we see a change to the Thatch's Buffalo and the main Buffalo, the A1 variants. They have had a BR increase from 2.0 to 2.3, which means they're basically taking the place of the P40. And again, this needed to happen. They added 3 50 cals to it, and it buffed the 50 cals. Like, when you go against biplanes, the biplanes just cry deeply. So that's another good change. Next, we have a change to the Ki-61 Otsu, where it's gone from 3.0 to 3.3. Now, the Ki-61 Otsu, I believe, is the... Let me just check this right quick. I think that's the one with the 20s. If it isn't, I'm completely wrong. Ho 103s. No, it's the 50 cals, isn't it? Yeah, 50 cals. I don't see why Gaijin is so obsessed with slowly bringing the Ki-61s higher and higher. You know, like, the Ki-100 is pretty fucking clubby, but the Ki-61s... I wouldn't say they're amazing aircraft until you get to the ones with 20s. And even then, they're kind of outmatched by their equivalents in the tree. They're just kind of like the momentum fighters in the jacks of all trades. So from 3.0 to 3.3 in RB, I think that might have just made the Ki-61 1 Otsu kind of a bit less viable. Next, we have a change to the A7M2, which had its BR increased from 4.3 to 4.7. We knew this was going to happen eventually. The A7M is pretty clubby because, you know, idiots turn fight against it. So we'll have to see how that pans out, but it's Japan. They'll just adapt, and all the people who are bad with it will leave, and it'll get in that cycle of just getting up-tiered and up-tiered, because the only people using it are pros. Next, we got changes to the fv4202 as previously listed. It's now a 6.3 in both arcade and RB. I would not be surprised if it goes to 6.7. Now it has the APDS shell on the 20-pounder, because it is going to be fucking nasty. Next, we have the Type 60 ATM, which is the Japanese ATGM vehicle, which is absolutely fucking horrible. It's like a festering arsehole. You know, you look at it and it's just like, well, shit. It's gone from 8.0 to 7.0, a massive drop for both RB and arcade. So, I don't know how this is going to affect it. The problem with it is it's just fucking garbage. It's just a box with 2 rockets on it, and you shoot it and it blows up. It's just it doesn't have, like, the ability to effectively fight things. It's just meh. So, I'm going to be seeing it now in my King Tiger, but I don't think it's going to change much. I think it's still going to be useless. Moving on to the Object 268, it's gone from 7.7 to 7.3 for both arcade and RB. This change, I'm not sure how this is going to play out. I haven't actually seen one in combat when I'm not using my Leopard. But I think it was a bit too high of a tier to be fighting just, you know, Heat FS all the time, which completely rendered its ability to fight kind of useless. It looks to be it's going to be in line with the Ferdinand, where you get down-tiered, you have a lot of fun, you get up-tiered, you don't have much fun, and if you get flanked, you still die. Next, we have the Finnish KV-1B, which has had its BR reduced to from 4.3 to 4.0 in RB. Now, I don't like the KVs continually getting down-tiered. There's something really annoying about having to fight one in a vehicle that can't pen one, and especially the ZIS-5 KV-1. That thing is really fucking scummy. I don't care if it's a hidden premium. I don't want to be seeing that shit in my fucking Cromwells and things where I can't actually pen them. So we'll see how that pans out. Not sure how that's gonna fare, but hey, if you got the Finnish KV-1B, you can go a bit clubbing now, I guess. The M46 and the M46 Tiger have had their BRs increased from 6.7 to 7.0. The problem they had with that is what happened was they released it. They gave it the Heat FS, and a lot of King Tiger players got quite salty because it kind of overrides the armor of the front plate, meaning you can pin a Tiger frontally from more or less anywhere. I can see where the change happened, and now it's in line with the IS-6, so there's a direct threat to the IS-6 on the American team now, which it will always see if it gets into a game. So that's a pretty good change. Next, we have the KV-220, which is just a KV-1 with a 122mm gun. In our kit, its BR has been introduced from 6.0 to 5.7. Now, I'm not sure how big of a change this is going to be. When I drove my Panther F, I saw about 3 or 4 KV-122s during my 4 hours of play today. And each time, they just got one shot. Because the issue with the KV's armor is, it's great when you've got a good angle on it and you're fighting things with less penetration than the armor. But when you get into a 6.3 game, everything can pen you, so you just get railed to the cross. Overall, I'm not sure how that's going to pan out. It puts it in line with the IS-2, though, the IS-2 early variant. So, we'll see how this goes. I don't think it'll be that much of a change. So that's the major changes to the economy update, covering the BRs and the minor stat changes. So if you like what you see here, like, comment, do all that good stuff down below. Do you think any of these BR changes are going to affect you negatively? I'd like to know, because I don't really play much arcade aircraft. I'm more of an RB guy. But most of it's just based on my, experience using the aircraft in the RB mode and then applying the sort of logic to arcade. Like, comment, do all that good stuff down below. Keep on gaming and have a good one.